In today's note, we're going to be introducing physics. And in physics, what we're going to be looking at is electricity. So some things we want to remember specifically from our chemistry unit. Remember, all matter is made up of atoms. All atoms have protons, neutrons, and electrons. Remember, the protons are positive, neutrons are neutral or no charge, and electrons have a negative charge. Remembering from the Bohr-Rutherford model that the protons and neutrons can't move, they're in that central core. The electrons can move, they orbit around that positive core. If there are more electrons than protons, then you have a negative charge. If there are more protons than electrons, then you have a positive charge. And if you have an equal number of both, then you have a neutral charge. And most objects that we come across are neutral. So some characteristics of electricity. First, electricity is the study of charges moving. So charges, it could be like a positive charge, negative charge, right? So we're dealing with those. Electrostatics is the study of electrical charges at rest or stationary charges. And static electricity, charges that remain stationary on the surface of a charged object. So just some key definitions, different classifications. So types of charges. There are two types of charges, positive and negative. Neutral is not considered a charge, right? Only positive and negative are considered charges. The law of electric charge. One, like charges repel. So if you have two positive charges, they're going to repel each other, the same as if you had two negative charges. Number two, unlike charges attract. So if you have a positive and a negative, those two objects are going to be attracted to each other. And finally, charged objects attract neutral objects. So if you have either a positive or negatively charged object, it's going to attract a neutral object. Insulators. Insulators are materials that do not allow a charge to flow freely on or through an object. So most nonmetals, some insulators may be things such as cotton, fur, glass, paper, dry air, rubber, plastic. Right? So if you're dealing with electricity, you might want to be wearing really thick rubber gloves or wearing footwear that has rubber on the sole because it's a good insulator, so electricity will not flow through you. Conductors. Conductors are the opposite of insulators. Conductors are materials that do allow a charge to flow freely on or through an object, and most metals are conductors. So things such as aluminum, gold, silver, copper, water, earth, those are conductors. Right? So copper, you usually see like copper wire, right? Because electricity will flow through that. Static electricity. Static electricity, again, charges that remain stationary on the surface of an object, and it's caused by the rubbing of two objects together. So for example, if you take off a sweater and your hair stands on end, what's the explanation for why this happens, right? What causes your hair to stand on end when you take off a sweater? And the explanation is the wool, when you pull that, or the wool in the sweater, when it gets pulled over your head, it pulls electrons from your hair. This leaves your hair with a positive charge. And since all your hair would have positive charges, and since like charges repel, then the individual strands of hair will stand on end because they're being repelled against each other. So again, just an introduction to electricity and some of the key terms and the laws of electric charge.